Well, without further ado, now I would like to welcome Bryan Cheung to the stage. Bryan Cheung is our CEO and co-founder of Liferay, and he will talk about the essence of digital transformation. Please welcome with me, Bryan Cheung.
Well, I keep promising myself that I'll get used to that very energetic introduction. Year after year, it still kind of makes me feel a little awkward. So one of these days I'll get it. I'm very happy to be here in the UK. It's a place that's dear to my heart. I spent about a year living here in London and Bayswater and really got to know this city. Still very fond of you all, despite what happened back in July. And, I could be smug for all of about 1 week before the U.S. primary elections happened. And so actually on the way out, there's going to be a signature petition asking for your support when I become a political refugee and join you here in your country. My brother-in-law is also from the UK, and he's now living in California, dealing with trying to raise a child on Peppa Pig and Sarah Duck in the midst of many American accents and figuring out where to get Yorkshire tea with low shipping costs. So anyway, I'm happy to be here. And of course, the Liferay team is very excited to have you here as well. Your time is the biggest investment you can make, and so we're very happy to have you here. I have just about 30 minutes to get through a very big topic, which is the essence of digital transformation. And digital transformation has become such a buzzword that it actually becomes very difficult to talk about in a meaningful way because so many people are saying so many things about it. And the word digital itself, really, I mean, you can put it in front of anything and think about education, digital education, what's the difference? So much of what digital is intrinsic to the very thing that it's supposed to transform. Digital dating is such a intrinsic part of our dating lives. Digital business, so fill in the blank, and it really seems to almost get at the heart of the actual thing that we're trying to do with it. So what is digital transformation? Well, I'm going to talk about three things this morning. The first is, what is the essence of digital transformation? Second, what are the hindrances? And then finally, how does our technology need to evolve in its understanding in light of digital transformation? So what is the essence of digital transformation? Last year, if you were here, you may remember that I talked at length about what it isn't. It certainly isn't just e-commerce, although the scale and size of the electronic commerce and the wider digital commerce industry kind of hints at the scale of the transformation at hand. 15x since 1999 in terms of total commerce and online ad revenue, and this still only comprising 6% of total US retail revenue, gives you an idea of just that we're just at the cusp of what transformation will entail for the retail industry, let alone all the other industries that we're working in. A lot of times we think of it in terms of what it means for the business and what it means for IT or the technology folks, which we have representatives of both sides in this room. Sometimes it's a very scary thing. I saw this headline yesterday about the New York Times. You may know that the new CEO, Mark Thompson, has been very aggressive in pursuing a digital strategy for their newspaper. And while his efforts have been lauded as the right direction to go, in terms of what it actually means, they went from, I think, 900 million in profitability down to just a very small fraction of that. And yet, even in the face of that, the market is actually rewarding Thompson's bold move with a 2% increase in share prices in response to their earnings report. But it's a very scary thing. I mean, it's one thing to say, we're going to lead the way in digital transformation, and yet another to tell your CEO that we're going to see, either losses or very small profits for the next few quarters as you go through there. On the tech side, being technologists, we're often enamored of technology, and we think of drones and beacons and mobile and all of the different things that digital transformation can entail. And so we may get very excited and caught up in the technology without realizing that technology is really just a means to an end. Others of us in the technology space will maybe say digital transformation, it's a buzzword. It's the same thing we've been talking about for the last 15 years. And yet, if you have this perspective, you may miss out on a very important shift that's going on. You see, because what transformation means for us today is that IT is no longer just seen as a helper. It's no longer just the business is making all the decisions, and IT kind of just figures out how to do it cheaply, at scale, and without spending additional money. One of the IT directors at Unilever was commenting that in the past, their CIOs always came from places like procurement or finance, basically figuring out how do we reduce our costs as much as possible. Now, the CIO is actually seen as an enabler of the business and is actually being invited to the conversation. And so, if you're a technologist in this room, this is a fundamental opportunity for you to change the nature of your engagement in your organization. Having said all that, it is in some ways very difficult to really pinpoint what digital transformation really means. This is a very, very wordy explanation of it, which we actually have on our website. But I thought it could really be boiled down to this one idea, which is using technology to give customers what they want. And I thought for a moment that this might be too simplistic because isn't this in a way what we've always been doing? And can you really just say that technology is going to make this possible? But then I thought further and I realized that giving customers what they want, that is actually the fundamental driving principle behind all of our organizations, whether it's government, whether it's business, whether you're a university, being able to serve, being able to match your audience with your offerings, your services, your products is really the heart of why you exist as an organization. And so now that technology is allowing you to do that better or to do that differently, that's why we're talking about this at such length in every industry that we come from. So I went so far as to give a very simple graphic to take these words and put it into a concept, which is really simple. This is what you're currently giving your customers. This is what they actually expect or want. Sometimes, like if you're Steve Jobs, you're able to predict what they don't realize that they want yet. But here's this big gap, right? Whether it's your capabilities, whether it's your will, whether it's the fact that you actually don't want to give customers what they really want, because not giving them what they want is how you make money. And we'll go into those examples. But in all of these cases, technology often enables these organizations, either yours or your competitors, to get rid of that gap and to get customers what they want. So with that, I want to get into the hindrances. What are the things that keep us from giving customers what they want? Throughout these illustrations, I'm going to be using this idea of the mountain of customer expectations. We've all heard that because of consumer IT, because of the millennial generation, for all the socioeconomic factors involved, that customer expectations have never been higher than they are today. And so here we have this mountain of expectation, and here sits your product. And many of you who are proponents of transformation are probably saying, come on guys, we need to adopt this new technology because right now this outdated technology that we have is preventing us to meet those expectations our customers have. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to have a competitor come with their new technology and they're going to be able to beat us to meeting those customer expectations. Well, I want to posit that actually, often it's not actually the technology that is holding back the organization, it's the model. So one of the famous examples of this in the US, of course, is Blockbuster. Netflix, this horse has been beaten to death, but most of us have thought about this in terms of technology. Well, Netflix, they were able to go to video on demand, and that's why they were able to beat Blockbuster. Well, actually, first of all, Blockbuster had access to all of the same technology that Netflix did. They just didn't have the organizational will to use it. They were too entrenched in their old business model. They were too afraid that the change might do what's happening to the New York Times right now, which is that the digital business, in a way, is decimating their print ad revenue. And so in their case, it really was not about not having the right technology, but being willing to use it to the best effect. The other thing about Netflix is that actually, even predating the video on demand aspect, what they were able to do was to achieve excellence on the operational side. So in the US, Netflix actually partnered with the US Postal Service, and they agreed that for any of Netflix's envelopes, they would have, I think, like a one-day delivery time. And so they were able to reduce the competitive advantage that Blockbuster had, which was the instant gratification of going to the store, seeing the movie you liked, and picking it off the shelf. Other barriers to transformation. A lot of times those barriers, when the technology is available, are cultural, they're political, or they're regulatory. And so your product, even though you might have the technology to meet those expectations, is held back by these things. One example might be mobile check deposits. So in the United States, Bank of America, Citibank, most of the major providers, in your mobile app, you're actually able to scan a check on the front and the back, and you're able to deposit the check without actually visiting the branch, which is really, really convenient. Customer expectation, once that expectation becomes, kind of set, then it's no longer a wow factor. It's just a given that this is something everyone should have. So I tried to see what the situation was in the UK, and I found that there is one pilot program Barclays is engaging with to have mobile check deposits. And in the the explanatory text below this image, they mentioned that there was a bill that was passed in 2015 that would, in effect, allow this to happen by October 2017. And so there must be some kind of banking regulation that disallowed check imaging to be the means by which deposits were made. That's changing, and now you'll probably see more and more of this in the UK as well. I mentioned before that sometimes our businesses inherently don't want to give customers what they want. And I think a great example of that is cable companies. So last June, I read the news that there's a company in France called Altice, and they won the rights for broadcasting UK Premier League football through their cable TV channels. They bought the rights for 100 million euros a year, and one of their competitors, Canal Plus, they're kind of screwed because they were counting on programming like this to justify the fact that they charged such a high monthly subscription fee, right? So they have exclusive access to Premier League football. They're going to charge you whatever they can get away with. These cable companies, they operate the same way in the US. They have some kind of fee, like 35 euros a month, and they give you 400 channels, of which you're probably only interested in one or two. Maybe the fishing channel is up your alley, or more likely one of these sports channels. But when your business is the only way the customer can access that programming, you're going to pay what they ask for. Well, guess what? It's not so much that technology itself gets rid of that proprietary advantage, but competitors who have access to that technology are going to use it to erode that. So in the US, we have a content provider / digital company called HBO. They're famous for programming like Game of Thrones and The Sopranos. It used to be that they could only reach their subscribers or their audience through these cable companies, and so HBO had to go through Time Warner or Comcast. But now, with digital streaming technology, they're actually able to give you direct access from HBO. I think it's actually called HBO Now. And for $15 a month, you can get all the HBO programming and not deal with all the other cruft that usually comes with your cable subscription. What else happens when you stand on your proprietary advantage and don't give customers what they want? Well, a lot of times they might take matters into their own hands. So one example here would be here in the UK, in fact, TransferWise was a startup that was created a few years ago by expats who are working in the financial services industry here. I believe one of them was, had emigrated to the UK to work in the sector, and then their business partner was working abroad and sending money back to the UK. Well, as you all know, there's all kinds of heavy transaction fees that are involved in that. So something on the order of 3 to 5% every time you move currency across borders. Well, they realized, this sucks, and I have a friend, and I know that he's earning euros right now, and he needs pounds. I'm earning pounds, and I need euros. Why don't we just make transfers to each other, and we can bypass those fees altogether? And so they actually made this into a real business, and I think the fees are something closer to 0.5%. So all of these things are going to happen, and it really is about whether your organization decides to proactively make them happen, sort of creatively disrupt and destruct your own business model in order to become a digital leader, or whether you allow someone else to do that for you. Now, Liferay, we are a technology vendor, and of course, I've been spending the last 10 to 20 minutes saying all the reasons why digital transformation is about much more than technology, about how so many forces other than technology might hinder or prevent that transformation from happening. But that doesn't mean that technology isn't involved. Of course, it is very much inherent to transformation, and you want to find the right technology, but more importantly, the right relationship and the right vendor to be a partner to you in that process. So where is Liferay in the midst of all of this change? That sort of opportunity and that crisis, I'll stand up here this morning and tell you right now that it is as much of a crisis and an opportunity for Liferay as a software vendor as it is for all of you in your respective fields. Our market has evolved significantly over the last 5 years, but particularly in the last 2 to 3. We have sort of stood on our accolades as being a leader in the portal market for the last 7 to 8 years. But on the other hand, you can kind of say, so what? I don't know if you read Peanuts in Peanuts when you were young. It's a cartoon, Snoopy and Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown's a big fan of baseball. And I think there was one comic I remember where the game was rained out, and he's standing there on the pitcher's mound, and he's like, yes, we won. But nobody's playing that game anymore. They all went home. And, we can kind of feel like this. And I'm using Liferay as an example of this. But it may apply just as well in terms of your business leadership in a particular industry. Or if you're a technologist, if you have achieved some kind of organizational standardization around certain technologies, like Java and app servers, that's great, but the ground might actually be shifting from underneath your feet. So what has that looked like for Liferay? Well, traditionally, Portal was one technology among several. It sat on app servers, and it served primarily an enterprise IT function. Closely related to Portal technology was CMS technology. In both cases, the goal of the technology was really an IT concern, which is how can we stop these crazy business people from doing all this stuff that we don't like, right? So in the case of CMS, it was how can we standardize and control the creation, the authoring, and the editing of content, make it consistent wherever we publish it, and also get the business folks to stop bothering us every time they want to update the website. On the Portal side, it was how can we make sure that the right people have access to these really important back-end systems that need to be secure. We want to make sure they don't mess anything up. We want to make sure nobody accesses information they're not supposed to get access to. Well, the reality is that even though enterprise IT has their concerns and their priorities, which are supremely important, at the end of the day, business needs to get done. And one of the evolutions we've seen in our industry is that the way that we've thought of these very traditional technologies has started to evolve. We realized that content, while it needs to be controlled, while you need to author it properly and all that, ultimately, if it doesn't produce an experience through the web that engages customers, that engages your prospects, that engages maybe employees or partners, whoever it is, then it's not doing its job. The role particularly of content management systems, which evolved into what we now call web experience management, was really to serve business units like marketing and sales, especially in retail context, especially in B2C context where a lot of the marketing was happening through your websites. In the meantime, on the portal side, portal projects realized that if they weren't serving the business departments of customer service, HR, or your partner programs, then the portals weren't doing their jobs. And so portals started to evolve. They became more engaging. They became more personalized, a lot more interactive. Users could do much more with it, not just consume content one way, but also create content, collaborate, share knowledge, and so forth. So these two technologies also kind of roughly mapped to two different life cycle stages. You could consider that CMS has really served prospects before they became customers, and then portal technologies really served not only customers, of course, partners and employees as well, but in this life cycle, customers once they've engaged your company's services. Now, in terms of the shift that I just discussed, we saw a shift in the priorities from IT, from control, from secure access to the priorities of the business. And so that's why people started talking about systems of record versus systems of engagement. Engagement means you really want to make sure that the users are getting something out of the system, that they're delighted, that they're finding the things that they need, and so forth. So this is all great, but a funny thing happened on the way to this evolution, which is we actually got so caught up in what the organization needed out of the technology that we kind of forgot the customer. What is the consequence of this? Well, first of all, when you think of CMS and portal separately, you create these silos across the customer journey or the life cycle. You've got customers coming to your website, kind of doing all this stuff. You learn all this stuff. You run analytics and A/B tests so that you know what their preferences are, and you create these personas. And then they buy something, they check out, or they become a customer. It's like, great. All that stuff we knew about you, forget it, because now we're going to put you in this customer portal system where you get your invoices or you can renew your policies. But, you know, we're kind of starting over, right? So this is bad from the organizational perspective. It's also bad for the customer, because now they're like, well, I used to go to this website. Now I have to go to like myportal.company.com or something. I don't remember. I don't know why it's so confusing. And we do all these kludgy things like have a redirect on the web to go from one place to another to try to mitigate that. But overall, the experience is very siloed. The other bad thing, of course, is that business and IT really shouldn't be fighting. Of course, there's always budgets, there's prioritization, there's how much attention you can get from the CEO. But these two organizations, which are so fundamental and crucial to the business, really should be working together. And the reality is that this has actually gotten worse, because as a consequence of that sort of struggle, business pitted against IT, a lot of business units actually just take initiatives into their own hands. They say, let's just go work with this agency to create this quick marketing landing page. Let's just engage this mobile app vendor to create a mobile app really quickly. Let's just grab all these SaaS solutions, which are charged per user. I don't have to go through procurement. I don't have to go through legal. It's so quick and easy. But guess what? Again, you are leaving the customer with this very, very disparate, very siloed experience across all of these different touch points. So, as a vendor, Liferay, we're really trying to solve that problem that we created along with all of you over the last 5 years. Again, I'll say that technology is never the solution on its own, but I hope that by showing that our technology's philosophy was informed by these forces and trying to solve them, we can show that we're thinking correctly about the problems and that we are a partner that you can trust as we all go on this journey together. So, instead of business and tech fighting, you have joint ownership. Instead of siloing the experience, you consider the full life cycle of the customer. And instead of creating many disparate touch points, we create a unified experience which can still be served by different technologies, but we really think about how we can tie together the touch points as our customers go on those journeys. We've heard some great feedback from the market as far as this shift in our strategy. I won't belabor these points. They're basically saying, you're moving in the right direction. I hope you guys actually succeed in doing what you set out to do. Where do we start? So we really start with most of the technology that you're already very familiar with. Liferay Portal, the portal server that used to be used to build websites, intranets, and customer portals, that's still in the mix. We're calling it digital enterprise, and it still primarily serves the function of managing content, managing sites and users, and making sure that all those things make sense and stay connected. It also means that all of the back-end integration and functionality you build can be reused across all of those touch points. Of course, there's all the mobile stuff as well, and all of the marketplace stuff and the document management that we have through Sync in our document library. What we're adding to this is several things, and this is the starting point, but this is where we need to evolve from. But we're adding several things that will really make this much more than the constituent parts and solve those problems that I mentioned before. So what do we need to do? First, DXP needs to help our organizations provide a better end-to-end experience. At Liferay, I used to stand up here and tell you, we've got this great platform. Build anything and everything you need to build on Liferay. Your enterprise app, your customer portal, your mobile app, et cetera, et cetera. And really what I was saying is, please go out and create all these silos that don't really have anything to do with each other and are not talking to each other. So what do we want to do that's better than this? We want to say, create those touch points, create those very kind of well thought out user experiences that, if you're a customer, you just want to update your billing information, you can do that really quickly. You just want to find out about a new product offering, you can do that quickly. But make sure all of these things are ultimately connected and that what you learn about a customer from one touch point informs how you interact with them across each of the rest of them. It also means making sure that what your employees are doing in your organization ultimately helps support that customer journey and experience. Sometimes it may mean that you need to develop some kind of analytics dashboard that helps you understand what's going on across all of those touch points as well. It also means that when you look at what a DXP should provide, it should provide a platform that brings all of these audiences together. I spoke with an IT director at US Bank, who's one of our customers, and they were trying to describe to me the process by which a municipal bond for a city was approved. And you can imagine the complexity involved there. So there's the city officials who are actually sort of approving and formulating the bond and all of the legal documents that go with that. There's the people on the bank side that's providing sort of the loan to the city. There's the institutional investors and the individual investors that need to get the prospectus information and all that stuff that's involved in that as well. It's a complex, multi-party, multi-step process. And it's funny, but one of the challenges he was telling me was, sometimes I just want to whip open my mobile app and see where we are in that long, complicated process. And if there's something I need to do, like I need to sign or approve something, I want to be able to do that from the mobile app. So we're not talking about like Instagram or Amazon on your mobile here. We're talking about, local governments issuing bonds, working with investors and banks, and orchestrating all of these things. And so this is a very complex thing that involves lots of parties, and it really changes how we think about the things that we need to build. If you have a chance to see our financial services retail banking demo, we get into a little bit of this. We show how Liferay DXP might be used to engage a retail banking customer on an online banking basis, but then understand based on the content they browse, are they looking for retirement information? Are they looking for college savings plans? Allowing that information to then inform how the customer service rep in the physical branch might interact with them, and what offerings they might give them on their next visit. Okay, second sort of philosophy behind DXP, preparing for an unknowable future. A lot of the business disruption that I described in the first part of my talk, whether it's Blockbuster, whether it's TransferWise, is about things that you just don't know is going to happen to you. I don't know how many of you are leaders in your industry, or how many of you are upstarts that are disrupting your industries. But one thing you all have in common is you don't actually know what's going to happen next. Certainly that was true here in the UK back in June, and it's also true in the US. But one of the things that we want to do is not create Liferay DXP as a platform that is ossified, that assumes that you have to have all your ducks in a row in order for it to be profitable for you. Some of you were here for the tech day yesterday, and you heard quite a bit about modularity, both in terms of OSGI, also in terms of redeploy and some of the new technology that we're building. That in itself, I think, illustrates my point, which is we as a vendor, we're actually not 100% sure whether the OSGI way of doing modularity is going to make sense, or whether redeploy, which is in many ways completely different from what Liferay has done for the last 12 years, is going to make sense. And so we're actually betting on both. And we're not sure how that's going to turn out, but what's important to us as an organization is that we're prepared, we're agile, and we're ready to go in either direction. So our technology, how is it designed to help you do some of the same things? If you kind of understand the ideas behind modularity, basically it's, if you design your services, you design your touch points, you design your technology to be only useful for today's realities or today's customer needs, then when those things change in 6 to 12 months, you're going to be scrambling to keep up with those changes. And so with Liferay DXP, you actually design your services and your technology to be modular enough, to be small enough so that you can quickly reconfigure these things for the shifts in your strategy. Let me give you an example, because that is so abstract that you're probably like, I don't know what he's talking about. So one of our customers is in the automotive industry in the US. It's Volkswagen. And one of the things they wanted to do was transform the process of purchasing a car. In the US, what you usually do is you go to the website, you configure a car that you like, and at the end of all that, they say, this car probably will cost you this, and if we had it in stock somewhere, we'd love to sell it to you. But now, why don't you go find a dealer that has that car that you kind of configured on the website that has nothing to do with reality. It's a very, very siloed process. And so then you go to the dealers, and then they have their inventory, and the reality is the car configurations they have in stock are not the one you want, because they want to load it up with all these packages because that's how they make money. And really, you just want like the manual transmission and the really nice engine, right? But nobody actually configures the car that way. And so Volkswagen wanted to change that. And they actually made it so that the online experience seamlessly integrates into the dealership experience. And part of the way that they did that was to actually bring the configuration experience onto a tablet that the salesperson at the dealership could bring to the customer right in the showroom. So they're looking at the cars that are on the lot. They can search the regional or the local inventory from where they are, and then if they don't have it, they can actually customize the order and get it sent to the factory right from the tablet. Well, they built that using Liferay DXP, and that's all great, but let's say 6 months down the line, they find that customers actually don't want to have to interact with the sales rep. They want to use a digital kiosk that's not tied to a tablet, uses a different front-end technology from the one they were using before. That's okay, because the way that they designed their back-end services, they can be easily rewired from connecting from the tablet to connecting to the kiosk. Another thing that you deal with in the automotive industry is with regard to financing. So you have to get a credit check from an organization like Experian. The way that your services are designed, you could quickly switch from, say, Experian to Equifax or something else. I think I've actually run out of time, so I'm going to run quickly through the rest. Finally, and I think this is the most interesting point for many of you who may be considering various DXP vendors in your transformation efforts, is that you really have to think about this not just in terms of what the customer sees, but everything that goes on behind the scenes in order to enable your customer experience. The obvious analogy of the iceberg is apt here, but experience really is everything sort of above the surface. It's the interfaces, it's the websites, it's targeted content and all of that sexy stuff that vendors like Adobe have. But then there's all of the hard stuff that no one really wants to do under the hood, the operational stuff, processes, fulfillment, and those sorts of things. And one thing that analysts are finding as they talk to large enterprises is that although no one really wants to talk about it anymore because it's so boring, integration, back-end system integration, really is a hindrance to great customer experience. And so at this point, it's understandable if you're so fed up with enterprise IT that you just don't want to even utter the word integration. But if you care about your customer, you really can't get around this. I love the illustration that Mark Grannon, who is a Forrester analyst, gives about this. And he sort of supposes that there is a map of achieving customer experience excellence, always above and to the right, of course. And this point down here is where you are right now. And what he likes to say is that as an organization, how you get here, how you get to an excellent customer experience, it's not actually going to be a straight road. It's going to require you to pivot sometimes from delivering on the experience side, and then sometimes you're going to have to evaluate your operations to figure out how the back-end stuff needs to work better in order to support that experience. So here's an example. One of the most obvious things you can do to give your customers a better experience is to get a mobile-friendly website or a mobile app. So you mobile enable your organization. That's all great. Well, what happens as a result? You actually get more web traffic across both the desktop and mobile experiences, and so you actually get more customer data, right? Well, all of a sudden you realize that you had all these data in silos, or like Mike said, you have all this dark data that's not being used. So then you focus on the operational side and you say, you know what, we should actually figure out how to get all of that data, not necessarily in one place, but you need it to all be talking to each other and to figure out what are the key insights from that data you can derive. Once you have that data, one of the things that you can actually do is deliver a more personalized experience to customers. So you realize that Nancy in Suffolk, likes red stripes, and so you show her all the dresses you have that have red stripes, right? Or whatever it is. It's kind of a superficial example, but you use what you learn on the operational side to, again, improve the experience. And then finally, that's really great, and so Nancy's getting her red striped dresses and ordering them. You realize that your warehouse fulfillment, where you have people manually picking items from a dot matrix printer that's bringing in the new orders, that needs to be completely overhauled because there's no way you can handle this big influx of new customers that have been enabled by your improvements on the customer experience side. And so in fits and starts, by going from experience to operations, you're eventually going to get to that holy grail of customer experience excellence that we're all after. Okay, well, a lot of what I've said has really kind of talked about why you should consider a digital experience platform as part of your transformation strategy in general. I just want to close by saying why Liferay. And I want to use one point to kind of speak to the broader point, which I hope will be the most important thing that you might take away from this conference. When you look at the vendors in this landscape, you'll notice a lot of big names, a lot of safe names, IBM, Oracle, Adobe, that have made a lot of acquisitions in order to support the various things that you need for a great customer experience. A lot of it, quite frankly, is more on the digital marketing side, but they're starting to think about the end-to-end customer experience. Liferay has not done that. We are still a fairly small company by most standards. We have built all of our technology with our team in-house. We've been doing this for 13 years, and quite frankly, we don't have everything that all of those vendors have, but when we get to building it, which we are furiously doing right now, you can be assured that A, it's designed to all work with what we've already built, and that we've done it according to the ethos and character of our company. And that is the main point that I hope that you can get from your experience here today, is who is Liferay, not just as a technology, but as a vendor that you might have a relationship through this very, very strategically important process of transformation. We are a vendor that has never taken investor capital because we want to ensure that we make decisions that are best for our customers, partners, employees, and community. If you're part of the community today, you may have some words for me on certain decisions we've made recently, and that's great because I want to hear your feedback. We are a company that has thought a lot about why we should exist in a sea of so many technology companies, and primarily we are motivated by being a force for change in the world, which unfortunately I won't have a chance to talk about today up here, but I'm happy to talk about with you in person. But most importantly, I think you'll get when you talk with us that we're not about shoving our technology down your throats. We're not going to recommend things to you that aren't going to be ultimately helpful in realizing your transformation vision. We really want to help our customers be the best that they can be in whatever area of service you're providing, and to partner with you in that. And, you know, the technology, the advantages and disadvantages that different vendors have, those will change over time. Technology can always be acquired. It can be, you know, you can get Liferay and other best of breed stuff, but really it's about what is the quality of the vendor relationship that you want to have. And I hope that today we can prove to you that Liferay is one of the people that you can rely on as you go on this very important journey with the rest of your organization. So I want to thank you again for being here and for your very kind attention, and love to speak to you at the breaks and learn more about what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you kindly, Bryan.